Welcome back to another episode on Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast. This week's episode will be a powerful compilation of the past guests this year sharing their hard-earned wisdom with us today. As we close off this year and prepare for the next to come, I wanted to give you some powerful, thought-provoking insight to reflect on and then take to implement into your life for the new year to come. Today's episode, featuring my special guests, will help you become unstoppable, equipping you with the mental fortitude to see possibilities where there are obstacles, learning how to build sustainable momentum, and the confidence to make your dreams come to life. You might have heard the saying, success leaves clues. My guests today have all created their own success, and they all come from a unique journey that has taught them the lessons that they are now passing along to us. These clues are for all of us to consider applying to our life. In this episode, you will hear from Varva, a successful entrepreneur and keynote speaker. If you were to tell like your old self one thing that you know now, what would it be? One big piece of advice you would want to share to your old self that just wasn't really sure what she was doing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a really good question. For me, for a long time, I got so caught up in the noise of like reacting to everything. And I didn't respect myself and my time and my peace of mind like I should. And what I mean by that is like other people's agendas were above me and still can be if I don't set massive parameters and guidelines around it. And the secret to all of our unique talents and really being true to our essence and our core is having more silence in our lives and spending more time with our creator and thinking about the things that you're thinking about. And for a while early in my career, I was so busy reacting and going and going and going that it's like I just woke up one day and I was like, who am I? And yes, I'm doing things with the right intention, but am I really living my life on purpose? Am I really showing up in embodying all the things God put in my heart and soul? And it's impossible to do that if you're not quiet, if you're not spending time by yourself, if you're not really thinking about those things that excite you. And the minute I started to do that and continually practice that, that's when I became more in love with myself. That's when I became comfortable with myself. That's when I started to trust myself and my decisions and what I say and how I say it. And that's when I feel called and more anointed, honestly, versus like it just gets, I'm sure Erica, you can relate. Like it gets noisy and you get bogged down and you
Burnt out then.
burnt out. And that is, not the place to be. And you start copying everybody else because you're like, well, they did it this way, so maybe I'll do it that way. And you're like, you're not creative at all. And so anyways, I became creative, and I still to this day, my greatest ideas, my greatest talks, my greatest breakthroughs are when I have boundaries in my life.
What are your success must-dos and do-nots?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So must do's. I mean, definitely getting clear on whatever it is that I'm wanting to do. And again, the vision board and all that stuff helps, but like having meetings with myself and brain dumping and assessing, am I on the right track? Is this, and I truly believe this little habit that I have implemented the last decade. That's why I've continued to move forward, because I'm just so intentional about my life. I don't just randomly live it. And every yes, there's a reason I say yes, and every no, there's a reason I say no. And it's just crystallizing that for sure. And that's how I am successful. I mean, for sure. And being okay with saying no.
Preston Smiles, a best-selling author, speaker, and personal freedom coach. So I would love to know, as you said, you didn't know what intuition was back then, but I want to know how you continue to stay connected to that intuition that you, again, didn't really know, but how did you, obviously it was a pivotal moment where you realized there's something to my thoughts and that's going to predict my outcome. So how did you stay connected to that intuition?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I think once you become aware of something like that, right? And I'm speaking to the 15-year-old version of myself, whether I had words for it or not, I started to recognize that I was being used, that there was something beyond the inner roommate or the inner critic that talks, right? There is an awareness beyond the thing that's talking. And I teach now, and this is, we just know this, there's 3 centers of intelligence: the mind, the heart, and the gut. And for me now, intuition comes in the form of first thought, because the first thought for me is the truest thought. The second thought, I'm maybe doubting the first one. The third thought, I'm like in a conversation about why I even thought it in the first place. By the time I get to the 7th thought about that initial thing that was go kiss her, go do the thing, start the business, run over there, hug that person, ask them if they need help, whatever that is, by the time I get to the 7th thought, I've talked myself out of the thing that was right there and true. And so that's how I figure it out now. Back then, I just sort of stumbled around and it kept happening. I kept hearing this sort of like still small voice, this whisper, this tap, this body hit. Don't do that, right? Whatever the case may be, it would just be there, and I would go with it. One of my superpowers is not overthinking. I think a lot of people
That is a superpower. It's true.
get paralyzed by their thinking, and I don't identify with the inner critic. I call him P Murder, and because oftentimes when he shows up, he's trying to murder some things. He's trying to talk me out and sabotage my life, and so to the best of my ability, I don't identify with the voice in my head, because I know that I am the consciousness holding the voice and not the voice itself, because I can't stop the voice. And the voice says stupid stuff and comments on microphones and the color of your shirt and how dark your hair is and the plant in the background and all the other things. The voice goes off, but the consciousness remains. For me, I just say yes to the thing that's handwritten on my soul. And I do my best not to overthink, overplan, or overanalyze, because I know I can't fail, which is a form of freedom, personal freedom, which is different than the quote unquote freedom. Personal freedom says that because there's only 2 games, the outside in game and the inside out game. Outside in game says lips, booty, dick, money, cars, X, Y, Z, all of that. When I get that, or when those people validate me, when I'm significant enough, when I have enough comments, when I have enough followers, when I get that, I am worthy. That's the empty game. That's not freedom. I coach people right now, high net worth individuals who have everything, and yet they work with me because they know they don't. They're slaves. It's just a different kind of slave, right? The other game, the inside out game, says I'm perfect, whole, and complete, but not finished. I'm a unique emanation of the Most High, sent here to remind us all of this one truth, which is love is all there is, was, and ever will be. How it manifests itself, it shows up on a need to know basis. This is where humans get really messed up, because they want to control everything. I want to know who my husband's going to be. I want to know who my wife's going to be. I want to know when my career is going to take off. I want to know. You want to control everything, but the thing doesn't reveal itself until the timing is right. Right? We call it divine timing. Right? It's always on time. And so the game is to surrender, to let go and let God, to give up, to go up. You give up the small thinking. You give up the putting yourself in environments that don't serve where you're going. You give up the idea that where you're going is better than where you are. Let me go to church with somebody right now. That right there is true freedom. I'm on a mission, right? To serve and support millions of people. And yet I'm under no illusion that I'm not already doing that right now. Right? So I'll climb that mountain. I'll chase that goal, but the goal will not make or break me, because right here is paradise as well. And that to me is true freedom.
So talking about personal freedom, how does one get there, get to that point? I know that's a loaded question, but
yes.
I love how you share personal freedom. I think it's something, as you mentioned, people could have all the success in the world, but they're hurting internally. And we know that comes from past trauma, our childhood, which you've experienced yourself. So in arriving to this, or I don't think you ever arrive, but feeling this personal freedom that you experience, we must work through those traumas, our beliefs, the things that keep us trapped. So how do we do that?
Yeah. This goes back to what I was speaking about earlier, where all roads lead to the same place. The how is, I can speak to many hows, if that makes sense. The actual earth has an electromagnetic field. Take your shoes off, put your feet in grass or dirt. Let the sun hit your face. Game changer. Asking powerful questions. I was in line. This goes back to all these stories I have. I was in line to become a pastor. And I was going through a process, and I quit it. I actually quit twice. And we were in a power of prayer class, and we were reading a book called The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And I'll never forget this line, because I hope this resonates with you as well. The line said, to get your questions answered and your answers questioned. For me, this was the ultimate. I mean, it literally bent my brain. I'm going to say it again: to get your questions answered. Now, I'm going to take you on a journey. Anything you type into Google, anything you type into God, will give you an answer. If you type in Google, why am I so fat? Why do I sabotage everything? Anything you put in there, Google, God will say yes. Here's a bunch of articles to prove why you're so fat. Here's a bunch of articles to prove why you'll never be the marrying type. Here's a bunch of articles to prove why you will sabotage every business you ever have. So the question is what are we typing into Google? And even if we do type something disempowering into Google, AKA God, and this is, I don't mean that, but I'm drawing the parallels. What takes it to the next level is, yes, you asked that question, but now question the answer. Literally look at it like, is that true though? Like, is that a fact? Or is this philosophy? Is that true, or is that my uncle? Is that true, or is that my dad, and his dad? Is that true, or is that my mom, and her mom? Because once we start to ask questions like that, we bring awareness to our lives, and awareness proceeds choice. I'm going to say it again, and slow and deep for those of you in the back who are letting this land. Awareness proceeds choice. And we can't intervene in a world we cannot see. You can't do shit. You cannot change jack crap about your life if you can't see your life. Okay, so how do I see my life, Preston? How do I see my life? Well, let's get back to number 3. We are social and historical beings born into beliefs and interpretations. So if you were born into a Christian family that said money is the root of all evil, then asking oneself, is this actually true, will bring awareness. And that awareness allows you to make a new choice. And that new choice opens up opportunity, and opportunity is creation itself. We swim in it, we dance in it. And so I'm only speaking to what is actually true for me. I'm a multimillionaire, and no one in my family ever has done this. And how I did it was through questioning what's actually true about me, about humanity, about the game, about the tool called money. and all the stuff I had attached to it. And I just kept cutting cords and cutting cords and cutting cords and freeing myself from the outcome and deciding to play like I used to before society told me that I was special needs. I started playing again, and that play created a vortex, an energetic space. Everything on our planet has a frequency to it. It's like radio stations. You tune in to the frequency of joy or play or sadness or anger or lack and limitation, and you get more of that. What you appreciate appreciates.
If you were to share something that you have learned in your life, a powerful lesson that you feel anybody needs to hear right now, what would it need to be?
Slow down to the speed of wisdom. That for me is one of the biggest reminders ever. In this fast-paced, low-touch society, we can get caught up in the weapon of mass distraction called the phone and forget to slow down and really listen. Pay attention to what's going on. Allow ourselves to be held and find out what wants to come through. I think a lot of people distract and they go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next until they are in bed and the phone's in their hand while they're in bed and they're texting, and then they wake up and they're right back at it, and there's no space. There's no space for stillness. There's no space for calm. There's no space for Mother Earth to have a conversation. So for me, that would be one of the most important.
Craig Siegel, a keynote speaker, entrepreneur, mindset coach, and breakthrough manufacturer. Let's talk about this reverse engineering. And you also mentioned this was Walt Disney's formula. So what is this? Because we need to know, for any of those that have discovered their passion, that they want to now implement it and make that reality, or that vision come to reality, how do we reverse engineer? What's the steps? Give it to us.
Yeah, so this exercise is probably worth $1 billion if you utilize it correctly. So this is what I did. I did this exercise, which I teach my program. I call it Project Moonshot, where essentially you set up 3 chairs in a room and you have 3 different perspectives for each chair. So for example, the first one is the dreamer. That's where you allow yourself to dream as big as you possibly can. What does this thing look like with no restrictions, no limitations? I mean, like the little kid in you. Like, I want this to be the biggest thing ever. I want to be selling out stadiums of 100,000 people. I want to superset that with a podcast. It's the most downloaded on planet Earth, being the hottest taking talent for speaking engagements, masterminds, the whole 9. Then you step into the second chair from a whole different perspective. You're looking at this thing. Now, all of a sudden, you're the critic. And this should be easy for most people because a lot of people are their own worst critic, right? So I give you full permission to shred yourself to smithereens. Well, it's not going to work because who's going to listen to you? You don't have any experience being on social media or filming or selling out stadiums, or what are your testimonials and so forth. You don't have experience with the online business. Then you step into the third chair, which is the realist perspective. Now it's like, okay, the dreamer wanted to do this. The critic said, these are the obstacles and the challenges that you're going to have. Now as the realist, you come in, you say, well, here's how it is going to work. You did start 2 businesses from the ground up into 8-figure juggernauts. You do have success in those fields. You did go from not being able to run a mile to conquering 4 marathons that very year. You are charismatic and you have a good ability to communicate. You'll get better at sharing on social media and so forth. And so I think the best part about this exercise, Erica, is it allows you to foresee every potential obstacle or challenge that comes our way. So now we're playing chess, not checkers. We're playing 10 moves ahead, so to speak. So now when the adversity comes, because as you know, any entrepreneur doesn't go up in a straight line, it's more like this, there will be challenges. But now you're prepared for every curveball that comes your way, and you already have a game plan for it. So that gives you a ton of confidence, or anyone out there that's looking to conquer a big moonshot, gives you a ton of confidence that you're prepared for every step of the way on this journey of conquering this big epic moonshot. Very effective exercise.
Brilliant. What else do you think you could leave with our audience today that will help them start to shift their perspective, revamp their mindset, and really take some action after listening to this to change the trajectory of their life like that?
So I thought you never asked. So I challenge everybody, all the amazing people that listen to Erica's podcast, go to the mirror ASAP. Look yourself in the mirror and say 3 words. Why not you? Why not you? Because if it's not you, it's going to be someone else. So if you have a dream, which I hope that you do, or you have a passion or a purpose, or you have a fire in you that's burning, you want to do something, or maybe you're just not fulfilled with what you're currently doing, ask yourself, why not you? And then let's put together a strategy, cultivate a vision, reverse engineer, take some baby steps, whatever the case may be. But you can do it. You are worthy of accomplishing your dreams and conquering big moonshots and doing cool things and making the most use of our time here on earth, so to speak. So a lot of people have big ideas and they're afraid to take action, living fear and doubt. And so I challenge you to look yourself in the mirror and say, why not you? And once you realize that there is no great reason as to why you can't do that, let's do this and let's take some messy action.
Bedros Keuilian, a best-selling author, speaker, business consultant, and the founder and CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp. I know you talk a lot about confidence, because I think you're asked that question, like, how do you become so confident being where you came from and moving into a successful entrepreneur? How did you get that confidence? I think you talk about, it's called the 3 C's.
Yeah, confidence, credibility, and competence. And so when you're competent, it's like when you say that I'm going to go work out, and you work out consistently enough where you get good at it, you develop a competency, you develop this credibility with yourself. Like your reputation with yourself is like, hey man, I trust you, you're good. You said you're going to work out for 60 days straight without taking a break. I'll give you a great example. I do these goofy 6-week challenges. I don't know why I do them.
Yes,
Yeah,
talk about this. I love this.
It's the first one was in 2010. I joked, my wife, when I met her, she was a marathon runner. She still runs a lot, but she would run 3 marathons a year. I, of course, would inject myself with steroids and lift heavy weights and whatever. And the joke was, why do I need to run? I don't need to run. I just need to lift weights. Like God's designed me to lift weights. And so we do put ourselves in these boxes where, oh, I don't remember names. Well, keep saying that. You're not going to remember names, right? And so I'd put myself in this box of I don't run. And so, we were dating. She goes, hey, would you go on a run with me? I was like, tell you what, if you will marry me one day, I will go on a run, right? And that was my way of kind of testing the waters. And she goes, yeah, okay, fine, right? So she was just playing with me, but months later I proposed, and a couple of years later we get married. So I did commit to her that one day I would run a marathon. Well, 9 years in, I had yet to run a marathon with her. And I hadn't kept my word. And so one day my business partner in one of my companies, Craig Ballantyne, is literally going off at a client, telling this client, like, you got to cut your deadlines in half and then cut them in half again and then just attack them with like singularity of focus. I'm like, yeah. He had me all gassed up. So I started texting my wife. I'm like, hey, when's your next marathon? She goes, San Diego Marathon, 6 weeks from now. I'm like, sign me up. She goes, they have a half marathon. I'm like, that's for losers. Sign me up for the full one, right?
Of course, go big.
Yeah. Having never run before.
Oh my goodness.
In that same room, this is funny, when you speak it into the universe to people, in that same room, while we're doing a mastermind, there's Jill Brewer, runwithjill.com. And during our lunch break, I'm like, hey, Jill, I know you're paying me because we're coaching you, but I just signed up for a marathon and I need you to coach me. Like, what do I do? So she wrote out a program for me, and in a very painful fashion, I finished this marathon. Since then, I've done all these 6-week challenges. If it scares me and it's out of my comfort zone, I'll take it. If it's guitar lessons, salsa dancing, jiu-jitsu, MMA fighting, rock climbing because I was afraid of heights, surfing because I didn't want to drown, I do it. Some things I hate and I'll never do again. Other things I'm like, oh my God, I love surfing. Oh my God, I love jiu-jitsu. It's like a human chess game. And so, but I'll use jiu-jitsu as an example because going back to confidence, how do you build confidence? Well, it's simple. You first make a commitment to doing something. In my case, I'm going to work with a jiu-jitsu coach 3 times a week for 6 weeks, 2 hours at a time. Like, that is drinking out of a fire hose. Like, my body was hurting every single day. But even when I wanted to have that internal dialogue, hey, don't show up, you're hurting, just have an excuse, he's gonna make you tap out, your joints are gonna hurt, I would just show up anyway. So I developed this competency in jiu-jitsu. Towards the end of the 6-week challenge, when he brought a guy my size, who was a brown belt, to roll with, we had like a three-round match, I had some level of competency there where, while the guy schooled me, I was like, hey, I think I can take this guy on, right? So competency led to this sense of confidence or credibility. I had this credibility, like, hey man, I'm proud of myself for doing this for 6 weeks. And while the guy made me tap out all 3 matches, that gave me some confidence that a brown belt, 230-pound brown belt, can take on a white belt at 230 pounds. But the average person on the street, I can probably have my way with them. And that gave me a sense of confidence. So competency leads to credibility, leads to confidence. We don't do things consistently enough, so let's make it 4 C's. Be consistent at the competency you're trying to build, to establish credibility with yourself, to have confidence in that one area. And I say that because we see people who are great at making money, but they have no confidence with talking to women. And like, I'm single, I'm gonna be single the rest of my life. Or they're great at building muscle, and you're like, man, you look at you, you're like a Greek god. It's like, but they see a pretty girl and they just like look over your shoulders, at your feet, they can't make eye contact, right? And so like you can't, so it turns out you can actually develop that competency and build credibility and have confidence in every area, but it takes repetitions to do it, and that's what most people lack. Thank you.
I know you are so giving, and I know you support lots of causes too. I could go on, and I totally want to honor your time. So I always like to ask my guests a very important question, and I love these answers that are given because they're so diverse. If you were to leave one piece of advice that you feel anybody needs to hear right now, it could be anything, what would it be?
That the greatest work you can ever do, even more than raising amazing human kids, is the work of self-mastery, healing yourself, because that's the pebble that has the biggest ripple effects. You want your kids to be amazing humans, like better humans than you, heal yourself so that they're a reflection of you. You want a business that's big and philanthropical, that donates a lot, right? Heal yourself, master yourself, so that you could build a business that serves and lasts, builds legacies when you're long gone. We spend too much time doing the outside stuff. I'm going to build a skyscraper, and I'm going to build this monument. I'm going to do all great, but the greatest work you can do is the work of self-mastery.
Joseph McClendon III, a doctor of neuropsychology, one of the most sought after ultimate performance specialists, and the partner and speaker for Tony Robbins for the last 30 years. I know I learned from Tony Robbins and several others, they talk about it's 80% psychology and 20% mechanics, but you have a different formula. And you briefly mentioned this earlier, and I would love if you could kind of explain a little bit of why this is so valuable to create more success in our life.
Yeah, because if the 80-20 rule, which it is, by the way, it's true, but if it was as effective in changing people and helping people change and getting results as people tout it to be, then why aren't more people successful? Why aren't more people healthy, happy? And by the way, to me, that's what wealthy means, is to be healthy, happy, and financially abundant. And so why aren't more people? And the answer is because it's more to it than that. Yes, psychology is the biggest piece of it. I call it the 60-20-20 rule. Psychology is the biggest piece of it. I already told you, it is 20% your belief about yourself, 20% your belief about other people, and 20% about the world around you. So that's number one. But then if you can have all of those things, but if you don't do something with it, the biggest reason people don't do something with it is because they don't have the energy to do it. Energy has to go along with that psychology, but don't get it twisted with energy as meaning get up and go and vitality and stuff like that. When I say energy, it is the very thing that we talked about before. Energy is just electricity. The difference between successful people and wealthy people is that they have something called magnetism. Magnetism is 20%, and magnetism is not the laws of attraction. Matter of fact, the laws of attraction are part of the laws of magnetism. I call it the 21 immutable laws of magnetism. Magnetism is different than attraction. Attraction implies that I'm attracting what I want to me, okay? And it's a very real thing. It's a 5,000-year-old philosophy with very, very little process to it. If you ask most people, what is the secret or what are the laws of attraction, their eyes roll in their head and they make it up and they go, well, it's, what I think is what I'll attract, and they make this stuff up. And I tell them how do they do it, and they don't know. Okay? So again, that, my passion is to simplify things and bring the science to it and give people something to do. Well, here's the deal. What if you don't believe you can get what you want? What if you don't believe you deserve what you want? What if you believe that there's something wrong with you? Then you'll sabotage and you'll push it away.
Yeah.
And the question I ask people is this, okay? First off, what is a magnet? A magnet is just a piece of iron that has been bombarded with what? Electrons. That's it. Everything on the planet is held together with what? Electrons. And so it stands to reason that if everything on the planet is electrons, what if you were bombarded with electrons? Would you become more of a magnet? And the answer is yes. And I'll prove it to you here in a second. Okay. The answer is yes. But here's the deal. What does a magnet attract best? Another magnet. Because when you ask other people what they go, well, it attracts steel. Yes, it does. But you know what it attracts best? Another magnet. As a matter of fact, they're attracting each other at the same time. If you flip that one magnet over, it'll push the other one away. So I liken that to the psychology, because most people's psychology is out of whack. And so they may want something, they may want to lose weight or make money or have a great relationship, but they're sabotaging themselves. They're pushing it away because they don't believe they can. And so magnetism is lining up those polarities in our psychology. And it, like I said, it's that loop again. When you do your psychology, you get the belief, which makes the energy, which makes magnetism, and you can magnetize what you want. And I'll give you a perfect example. Remember what I said, unseen forces. Yeah. Here's the example. I'm going to use people as an example, but it's synonymous with material things as well. Have you ever been sitting in your car and you feel somebody looking at you and you look over and they're looking at you? Yeah, all of us.
Yeah.
Or you're sitting in your car and you see somebody, maybe it's an attractive person, you're looking at that person and they feel you looking at them and they catch you looking at them. Mm-hmm. It happens. You literally impacted that person by your attention and intention on them. You literally caused electrons to go across the expanse of distance to impact that person, and they felt you. Because as soon as you put your attention and intention on somebody else or something else, 4 things happen. Number 1, your electrons, what's called your electromagnetic energy, and you can go on YouTube and look up Carillion photography, you'll see it. Your electrons grow. The second thing that happens is that thing or that person feels it. The third thing that happens is their electromagnetic energy grows and they're now a magnet and you become attracted to each other. That's why we look at each other. Now that's the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
But it is evidence that it's going on all around. And when you do, well, like I said, neuroencoding, and you learn the skill of changing your own psychology, changing your electricity, changing your magnetism, then life goes a whole lot better, at the very least.
The questions we should ask ourselves so that we can determine what our vision is.
Here's what they are. And everybody, you might want to write this down.
Yes.
How we say what you write, you invite. All right. And here's what they are. Number 1, what do I want? What do I want? In the moment, what do I want? Okay. And you can go, what do I want in those 5 areas, your physical body, your emotions, your finances, your spiritual, and your relationships. You can use those, or you can just say, what do I want in this moment? Catch yourself doing it. And then the next question is, how do I feel about what I want? Because as soon as you go, well, I got some doubt about it, or as soon as you go, I feel real good about it, then you got 2 choices. Continue doing what you're doing if you feel good and enhance that, or do something different. Because it kind of goes like this. What do I want? And how do I feel about it? That how do I feel about it will tell you what stops you. You can go, I had a bad childhood, I had all this stuff. Screw all of that stuff. It's what you're feeling in that moment right now. So if you go, I don't feel good about it, or I doubt if I can, or whatever, and you got that look on your face, that's the pattern that you got to interrupt. And it's that simple. What do I want? You can say what stops me, but I always say to people, how do I feel about it? Okay. And then you go, and then so now you know what is stopping you. And now you go, what am I good? Next question is, what should I do about it? And so, and I always say, what can I do about it? And what that means is, whether it's, and all the time, what you can do is interrupt the pattern, but it's deeper than that, because you go, okay, well, what is my plan for tomorrow? What I want is I want to have, a shapely body, or I want to be healthy or whatever. Okay. What should, could, would I do about it? go to the gym, schedule it or whatever, do something in the moment. And then the last thing is, how can I praise myself now? And that's where the ass shaking comes in, the smile on your face, patting yourself on the back or whatever. Those 4 questions, I hope everybody wrote them down, because if you just ask yourself those questions, and by the way, any pain, and pain can be physical pain or emotional pain, doubt, worry, concern, anger, whatever, that's just a signal for you to snap out of it, for you to break your pattern. That's just a signal. Don't make it any more than what it is. Don't go down the rabbit hole of any of that stuff. It is from this point forward what you're going to do right now.
All right. So if you were to leave one more piece of advice that you feel everybody just needs to hear right now, what would that be?
It is that life is exactly what you dare to make it. And fortune favors the bold. And so the trick to life is to boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. Learn something new, talk about it, walk it, and teach it to other people. You'll not only be helping yourself, but that natural trade-off in life. You give, you'll receive. You create that loop within inside yourself. You'll be wealthy, healthier, happier, and more fulfilled.